Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Tammy Davis. If you're new, thanks for stopping by. This is a little bit out of the ordinary for me, although the last week or so I've kind of gotten into more about what's happening in our current events, June 2020, from the pandemic to the recent murder of George Floyd and all of the subsequent protests and riots and so forth. So, I mean, in my opinion, we are at a civil war. But I have some things I want to say beyond what I've already said, and it's grounded in facts. This is where, if you're new to me, welcome to my world. I will never, and I don't appreciate just a lot of exploitation of information and agendas. There's always something else going on. I like to refer to myself as a sleuth for truth. I'm a truth seeker for sure. More along the lines of fact. To me, the only truth is love. This is the reason why I do any of the work that I do. It's to get to the bottom of something. And as in, not necessarily as a squealer, but as a way of opening our eyes with the intention of generating a different perspective so that we can actually come together and heal. I'm a big believer in conscious activism. So that said, I have, a couple of things. So yes, I unfortunately witnessed the very first video that came out with George Floyd. That was just yeah. It was horrifying. But there was, and I'm very well aware, there was the young man who was run down in some town in Georgia back in February, and it only surfaced a few weeks ago. So I pay attention to these crimes, but there's a few things that I think we're not paying attention to, and that's the point here. There's an agenda to what's being pushed in the media. Not to say that Mr. Floyd's death didn't inspire a lot of change. I can totally see that. In fact, all of these deaths that have come up have inspired a lot of change. And if we really are unified in our pursuit of justice and getting to the root of what's going on, then we have to forget these agendas. And I'm sorry to say, if I offend anybody, please just click off now. This is a very political move because, quite frankly, I'm watching the different parties posture themselves against the other and making sideways comments about one of the constituents of that party. And this just feels very political. And I hate the fact that anybody's life or death is a political move. This is bullshit. It's just absolute bullshit, because there's actually something else that came to light the last couple of days, which is what prompted me to do this video. Towards the end of last year, I came across a news report of a woman who was being called back to Idaho her children were missing. Her children were reported missing. They hadn't been seen in months, and she was called to come into court in Idaho. And the demand was that she either bring the children or tell the court where the children were. I don't know how she's managed to get away with all of this crap for so long, but that was towards the end of last year. She was supposed to report to court in January of this year. Well, she did. She never presented the children. I've been following this story as I see things come up. She has an older son who has come forward. He's very concerned about his 17-year-old sister and his 7-year-old brother. Everything seems fishy. Her ex-husband died. Her brother died. She's now married. She married her current husband in November of last year. The woman he was married to died the month before they were married. So there's a lot of weirdness around this. Fast forward to 2 days ago, and these children were found. They were found in the yard of her husband. He has since been charged, I believe, with murder. I'm thinking he has been, because the bodies were found in his yard of both people. They're linked to the husband and wife are linked to a cult. And this just got me to thinking, yes, we saw a white police officer take down a black man and suffocate him, strangle him basically to death. People are trying to say, throw other wrenches into this thing, but we saw the brutality. Okay, if you want to claim, drugs, and you want to claim something else, knock yourself out. We saw the brutality. That's the one thing I will say, and that was white on black brutality. That's not the norm, you guys. That's not the norm, and that's the thing that pisses me off that we're not paying attention to. That's not the norm. So I'm going to read some statistics straight out of the FBI criminal records. So you have to have these. So, race of the victim. Off the top, we have white. For 1 year, total amount of white victims, 3,499. 2,854 of them were the race of the offender. Wait a minute. Okay, I'm trying to figure out this chart. So the race of the victim is white, with the total number being 3,499. Yeah, I'm just looking at the numbers, seeing how they add up. The race of the offender, I said race of the victim was white, basically 3,500. With the race of the offender, 2,854 of the offenders were white. 533 of them were black. The race of the victim, black or African American. Total number of those people that died, 2,870 people. The race of the offender, 243 were white. 2,570 were black. So those are interesting numbers, because what we witnessed was white on black, and this is the argument, and this is what we keep. And I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. Okay, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is let's pay attention to what's actually happening in this country, and if we're going to be upset and we're going to look to create change in the justice system and the way we treat one another, more specifically, the treatment of one another, it's time to pay attention to the numbers. Okay, so white on white numbers are higher than white on black. Yeah. You have 2,854 white people in 1 year killed 3,499, and killed, were part of, there was 3,499 white people died, and 2,854 of the offenders were white. When it comes to black people, we had 2,870 people dying, losing their lives, and only 243 of them were white, with 2,570 of them being black. I mean, this is just, the numbers are staggering. And then we can get into cult crimes. These children were white. I mean, so I guess the point I'm getting at is some of these crimes are definitely going to involve racism. Hands down. I mean, unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast. This is human thinking. I don't agree with it. But what I'm seeing here and what I'm saying is that this is more along the lines of what's currently going on, a political movement. Now, I am not telling you, I am not coming out here with a political agenda whatsoever for myself. I'm just saying pay attention. If our passion really is about helping one another, if our passion really is about ending brutality against other human beings, whether they be black or white, or another race, or another ethnicity. I mean, I didn't get into all the other numbers, but I just wanted, right now we're making this being about black against the white, and that's not what this is. What you have are Democrats against the Republicans and the Republicans against the Democrats. Sadly, we are in a political year, y'all. Again, it saddens me that George Floyd had to lose his life, and it saddens me even more that his life is being used at this level of manipulation, emotional manipulation. I've talked about this before on my radio show. I've talked about it on here. Neuromarketing is a big thing. They know how to get us, and this is one of them. But let's pay attention to the bigger numbers. These cult crimes are horrendous. And those two children that lost their lives were white, their mother's white, their stepfather's white, and they're linked to cults. But nobody's really talking about these two children. I mean, a year or so ago, actually, it's probably about a year and a half ago now, I read it. There was another story of a white man whose wife had gone away on a business trip. She was pregnant with their third child. He had two little girls at home. The friend who brought her home from the airport dropped her off in the middle of the night. She was never seen again. People searched for the bodies, they didn't know where the girls went because the little girls were missing too. The wife and the little girls, everybody was all missing. Months, fast forward a few months, and the bodies of these little girls are stuffed in barrels of oil on the same land where this guy works. And I forget where his wife's body was, and like I said, she was pregnant with his third child, all because he was wanting to have an affair with somebody else. This is the kind of horseshit that's going on in this country, and we're not paying any attention to it, and we're standing up for one thing that we see that is absolutely brutal. That cop, he shouldn't even have had that job. He should not have even been in that job. I don't know how we can screen people to to know when they're going to lose it. I have no idea about any of this. Regardless of anybody's claims about the condition of George Floyd, we do know we saw the brutality, and it's the brutality that I'm getting at that has to end. Brutality towards one another, regardless of your skin color, and regardless of the political agenda. So I'm going to leave you with that. But just do your research. Go out there and look. I mean, I'm not to depress yourself, but to go see the number of people that are losing their lives at the hands of somebody else for one stupid reason or another. I say stupid, and that's scientifically I understand it. I like to say spiritually, I like to say that I could understand it, but as a human being, it's intolerable. Understanding does not mean I tolerate the brutality. Understanding says that I can understand the dynamics that would lead to something like that mentally and emotionally. This instability that we have in this world is off the charts. And it's the reason why in the last few videos I talked about it's time to ground ourselves, not to be little Pollyannas. I was listening to somebody else's video today, and she was, she's a card reader, and she was talking about how, other people on YouTube are talking about just being positive and just, don't look away from it, look at it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is address it head on, ground yourself. The instability is crazy high at this point, okay? It's too unstable in this world, and the more instability breeds instability, just like fear breeds fear. So, yeah, get a hold of yourself, check yourself, because the mind and the emotions that leading to all of this brutality is jacked up. The only way we're going to overcome this sense of brutality is to really ground in and root in ourselves, who we are. Namaste, right? Honor the light within. Do it. Because the more grounded you get, the more proactive you can be about changing this level of brutality. It's never going to be eradicated from this planet. We're humans, unfortunately. But we can certainly do our due diligence to dial it down and help change the face of how our communities and our societies operate. Do your research. Please see beyond the political agenda and understand that there's a great deal of brutality happening in this world, and it's not just happening on a few streets throughout the country. It's happening everywhere in places that you aren't even aware of and we're not aware of, and it doesn't happen until all of a sudden the reports come out. We don't know about it. So anyway, please get a hold of ourselves. Let's get a hold of ourselves. Let's unite and let's make a difference in the way we treat one another. Namaste.